had a lover in college, and he was a little tryst. I was a naughty boy based on my faith.
Here's the uncomfortable truth about that shiny Lexus convertible. It was bought long before the kids ever got health insurance. Every sprawling family saga has its defining symbol. In this one, it is not the overstuffed minivans, the maxed-out grocery budgets, or the annual pilgrimage to the bargain amusement park. No.
Okay, I remember the car.
The true emblem of priorities was a white convertible. 2 seats of pure midlife self-indulgence, purchased the moment household finances finally loosened.
Kody's on his way home with a brand new car. We've all been working actually in a job.
The justification was charming in its transparency. The money came from a good year, perhaps even a triumphant burst of sales prowess. Apparently,
Like every time I move, I get like sharp pains down my back.
Savannah told me how much,
a man presiding over more than a dozen children believed the logical reward for this milestone was not medical coverage, reliable family vehicles, or pain relief for a child with a deteriorating spine, but a sports car, better suited to a bachelor reliving his 20s. Somewhere, practicality wept. The contrast could not have been more theatrical. The mothers continued ferrying children in aging, noisy vehicles, stretching their budgets to provide basic necessities, while the family patriarch sailed past in a Lexus convertible, an automobile whose seat count reflected his commitment to shared responsibility. Even the children noticed the absurdity. Road trips featured the comedic spectacle of every family member piling into caravans of worn-out cars, while he commandeered a spacious SUV alone, insulted that no one volunteered for the privilege of his company. His lament, "And I'm fun to ride with too," was unintentionally perfect self-commentary. Meanwhile,
Insurance when you guys were little, so we always did all the home remedies we could.
when we were raising the kids, we didn't have a lot of money.
the absence of health insurance loomed as the real scandal. Years of untreated spinal pain for one child, a medical crisis for another, and somehow, resources were still allocated to symbolic masculinity on wheels. The adults could fend for themselves, but the children bore the cost, literally and physically. Even Christine's cautious handling of her post-operative pain medication became a study in misplaced guilt. In her sheltered worldview, responsibly avoiding dependency constituted addiction, while the actual negligence lay in depriving the children of basic medical security. And then there was the timing. A 2-seater convertible happens to be a very convenient accessory when attempting to impress a younger potential partner already navigating life as a divorced mother of 3. Functionally useless to a large family, but highly efficient for courtship optics. The myth of the award car only added another layer of farce. Yes, a pinkish MLM incentive vehicle existed at some point, but the original white convertible, the one immortalized in early episodes and promotional photos, was a deliberate purchase, bought used and in a good year. The explanation went. Translation: the children's needs were outbid by personal vanity. The outrage began there, and for good reason.
Our campsite's 20 miles from town. No problem. We had no idea that it was switchbacks and
A man with enough offspring to justify a school bus chose instead to buy a toy, and in doing so, he offered the clearest possible insight into his hierarchy of priorities. The convertible was never just a car. It was a thesis statement. Here's what no one wants to admit about Kody Brown. The only marriage he's ever valued is the one he has with his own reflection. Kody Brown's latest narrative arc appears to be aimed at those who still believe his self-styled monogamous devotion is anything more than a temporary marketing slogan. His track record makes the future fairly predictable. A man who built an empire of spouses and children purely to ensure a captive audience does not suddenly transform into a model of fidelity once his cheering section shrinks.
Christine's complaining that I was never around. I don't know what she's talking about.
The moment his household stopped orbiting around him, the accusations of betrayal conveniently materialized. The spotlight dimmed at home, so the searchlights of reality television became the next best thing. Special forces today, Big Brother tomorrow. Anything with cameras, confessional booths, and strangers willing to pretend he's interesting.
I had a lover in college, and he was a little tryst. I was a naughty boy based on my faith.
Given this relentless pursuit of validation, the prospect of infidelity is less a hypothetical than a scheduling question. Any woman who so much as glances in his direction will be treated as a sign from the universe that monogamy is optional again. The grand proclamations about soulmates will dissolve instantly, replaced by the classic lament of the middle-aged man who suddenly discovers his wife just doesn't have time for him. It's hardly subtle. The televised persona is practically an advertisement soliciting applicants. There is, of course, the delightful symmetry of all this. The same playbook that once ushered Robin into the family could readily be used by the next opportunist.
I was getting messages through social media that Mary was having an affair.
The potential for a poetic full-circle moment, perhaps even a catfishing incident straight out of the Mary Brown saga, is almost too on the nose to resist imagining. The bar for would-be suitors is low. If women happily propose to incarcerated serial killers, there is undoubtedly someone willing to flutter eyelashes at a man who confuses chaos with charisma.
Now, with some prompting from Robin, he's come around to, well, there has to be a conversation.
Even Robin appears to recognize the trajectory. Her push for reconciliation with Janelle had little to do with sisterly harmony and everything to do with securing an ally who never demanded an abundance of emotional attention. Janelle's independence and her admission of satisfaction with the physical side of the relationship represented a threat-reducing buffer. Fortunately for everyone involved, she opted for children and dogs over continued participation in the melodrama.
I'm not going to negotiate with the kids on this. You're either in and you're complying with...
The broader context remains unchanged. For decades, the Brown household thrived on an us versus them dynamic, carefully cultivated by its patriarch. Polygamy offered unlimited opportunities for triangulation, jealousy, and female competition, his preferred fuel. Monogamy, however, starves him. When polygamy is too much and monogamy not enough, the next step becomes painfully obvious. The underlying ideology only reinforces the inevitability. Raised to believe women reach an expiration date, he now perceives Robin as having arrived at that milestone.
Rob and I are accused all the time that all we ever wanted was each other.
And with his awareness of public criticism, yes, he reads it, his ego naturally seeks someone deemed more desirable. Robin was never the grand love story. She was merely the most useful instrument until she, too, became insufficiently adoring. His excessive declarations of devotion only underscore the point. It is the textbook case of protesting far too loudly. Beneath the theatrics lies a simple truth. The only enduring relationship Kody Brown has ever maintained is with himself. Robin's legal leverage only heightens the irony. Unlike the original wives, she can leave with half the assets and child support, a fact he seems determined to ignore while reenacting the familiar delusions seen in other polygamist cautionary tales. In short, the cheating is not a matter of speculation. It is the natural continuation of a lifelong pattern. The man has been unfaithful to commitments, emotional, marital, spiritual, since the beginning. Only the casting call changes. The script never does. Here's what no one wants to admit about Christine and Kody's origin story. She pursued him long before he ever considered her.
Are you gonna move on and find a new husband?
Yes. When?
Christine Brown has built an impressive post-polygamy brand on empowerment, resilience, and finally, choosing herself. Admirable, certainly. Yet her carefully curated narrative tends to sidestep the inconvenient prologue. The courtship with Kody Brown was not a sweeping romance tragically derailed, but a pursuit she orchestrated with striking determination and a keen awareness of her own ecclesiastical pedigree. Christine has long framed herself as the overlooked daughter who had to fight for what she wanted. That may well be true, but determination has a way of looking suspiciously like forcefulness. and her behavior throughout the early relationship suggests someone accustomed to getting exactly what she set her sights on, regardless of enthusiasm, or lack thereof, from the other party.
I feel like came from, I'd known her for a long time, and I knew she wanted to be in my family. I really liked her family. She was...
The self-described polygamy royalty did not wait for Kody to knock. She dispatched her father to initiate the courtship, a move no other wife employed, and one Kody, a recent convert with minimal standing in the all-red power structure, was hardly positioned to decline. Church hierarchy can be a remarkable aphrodisiac when refusal would mean offending leadership.
Mental needs for women, it's like, there's a hubris that comes with judgment.
I courted Mary and I courted Robin.
The irony, then, is rich. Christine's oft-repeated lament that Kody should simply never have proposed if he lacked attraction is valid, but only half the story. When a woman pursues a man who does not pursue her and has institutional muscle ensuring his compliance, some measure of responsibility must be shared. She continued choosing that marriage for 3 decades. That is not entrapment. That is commitment bordering on inertia. None of this absolves Kody, who has since demonstrated that narcissism is not merely a personality trait, but a full-time vocation. His belated meltdown when Christine finally walked away had all the theatrical shock of a man deeply offended that the woman who spent years chasing him no longer considered him worth the effort. But the dynamic was baked in from the beginning. She wanted him. He tolerated the arrangement, and both entered a polygamous system designed to sabotage introspection. The cultural context matters.
There's situations where a girl will come into a family and just want the guy, and it rips the family apart. I wasn't interested in that. I wanted the family.
Christine was groomed from adolescence to believe that salvation, self-worth, and eternal reward hinged on securing a place in a plural marriage. Compatibility was irrelevant. Spiritual hierarchy was everything. At 22, an age at which most people are still trying to remember to pay their car insurance, she was making a lifetime covenant inside a system that prized obedience over emotional maturity. Kody, equally young and catastrophically naive, was hardly a master manipulator in those early days. He was simply outmatched by a woman from a powerful family and by a religion in which no was rarely an option. It is also worth noting the selective romance of Kody's history. He has only ever displayed genuine emotional investment in 2 wives. Mary, briefly, as long as teenage infatuation can possibly last, and Robin, the only woman he pursued with sincerity. With Christine, the sparks never caught, and the show itself provides decades of evidence that he never concealed that fact particularly well. Yet, the tragedy is not that Christine married a man who wasn't in love with her. The tragedy is that she lived within a system that trained her to ignore that reality and call it righteousness. That she eventually escaped it, found real affection, rebuilt her self-worth, and abandoned the spiritual pyramid scheme that shaped her early decisions is the genuinely admirable part of her story. Her early choices may have been unwise, forceful, even strategically self-serving, but they were made inside a world designed to cloud judgment. Kody's failings are his own. Hers are understandable byproducts of a culture engineered to distort female agency. Both were young. Both were indoctrinated. Both made devastatingly human mistakes, and one of them finally learned from them. Here's what no one wants to admit about why he really skipped his daughter's surgery.
Even though it's COVID right now, we're still going to get the surgery.
The public explanation for skipping a daughter's major surgery was a supposed fear of contracting a virus and being separated from a favored household. This convenient rationale has been repeated often enough to sound almost rehearsed. Yet, the more plausible motivation sits in plain sight: escalating conflict with Christine.
Isabel's really hurt that Kody's not here. She's really hurt. So Isabel's surgery.
Confronting that tension long enough to support a child evidently proved too heavy a lift. So the crisis was outsourced to excuses, while the parent in question stayed home. This pattern is nothing new. Whenever the relationship with a wife deteriorates, the children attached to that wife reliably become collateral damage. Fatherhood operates only under the strict conditions of convenience and compliance. The moment either falters, so does his participation. The record speaks for itself.
You guys can say your goodbye.
Okay, I understand.
I'm not saying goodbye now, right now. I love you.
Even a child who was seriously ill was brushed aside in favor of time spent elsewhere. And concern was noticeably absent when their mother was away. The supply of justifications is apparently endless. Pandemic or no pandemic,
Does it hurt us to wait 6 months?
I don't know, I think it could only get worse. So why would we?
the idea that a parent simply cannot be present for a child's surgery defies reason. And the silence from the household he prioritized, most notably from the partner who champions the ideal of a large, blended family, only reinforces the point. If any attempt had been made to urge him toward basic parental duty, it would have been broadcast instantly as evidence of virtue. The lack of such a claim is telling. Of course, the calculus shifts dramatically when the child in need belongs to the preferred branch of the family tree. Attendance would have been assured, just as it was for events deemed important enough to merit the effort. Entire moves have been orchestrated for those favored children. Showing up for surgery would hardly have been a stretch. There is also the persistent rumor that the surgery was delayed until adulthood, not for medical reasons, but for financial convenience. Postpone long enough, and the obligation evaporates. Whether or not that was the intent, the suspicion fits neatly into an established behavioral pattern, one in which optics matter only when they benefit him. Indeed, when other family members stepped up and were present for the surgery, irritation reportedly followed, not out of concern for the patient, but because their presence highlighted his absence. In the end, the heartbreak experienced by the daughter involved was both predictable and preventable. Yet, it may also have been a turning point. Being abandoned at such a critical moment exposed the family mythology for what it had become and offered clarity to those who needed it most. Here's what they never wanted viewers to admit about the Brown family's so-called unity.
So who would you recommend for a fertility doctor?
From the earliest episodes, the family's public narrative about Mary Brown's fertility journey served as an elegant bit of groundwork, an ongoing effort to frame her as perpetually fragile, perpetually at fault, and, most importantly, perpetually expendable. But nothing exposes the hierarchy of favoritism more cleanly than the graduation episodes, which somehow always managed to transform into the Kody and Robin variety hour. At one graduation in particular, Leon's, shared with Aspen, the spectacle reaches its peak. Robin offers Kody the sort of syrupy pep talk normally reserved for coaxing a toddler out of a grocery store meltdown. He gets to be a hero today, she assures him. The bar for heroism appears to be set at behave marginally better than a sulking adolescent. Astonishingly, this works. She knows precisely which emotional strings to pluck, and he responds on cue. The contrast between family priorities is impossible to miss.
So it's a little bit of a milestone for me to have a child that is actually getting ready.
At Logan's graduation, pride flows freely. Logan is treated as all of their child, the collective triumph, the communal achievement. Shift scenes to Leon's ceremony, and suddenly enthusiasm evaporates. The privilege of witnessing a child walk across a stage, the milestone that allegedly binds this sprawling family, seems curiously optional when the child in question belongs solely to Mary.
An usher. And usher took us right there. He told us to sit there, and so we did.
Her desire to sit where she could see her only child graduate becomes an inconvenience, then an offense, then yet another opportunity for the group to police her reactions. The irony is sharp. Graduations are famously tedious, yet even the most ceremony-averse adults understand that showing up matters. Families endure endless rows of metal chairs and badly amplified speeches for the sake of one moment, except when the child is Mary's, in which case the moment is treated as negotiable baggage. The dismissive refrain that "not everyone cares about watching the walk" functions less as philosophy and more as a justification for selective loyalty. Robin's own commitment to family milestones is equally revealing. Her chronically late arrivals, sometimes timed with near-comic precision, arrive packaged in excuses about childcare that mysteriously manifest only at major events. This same performative caretaking resurfaces whenever she inserts herself into situations framed as acts of maternal or grandmotherly devotion. The pattern is almost artful in its predictability. Prioritize attention, not the person ostensibly being supported. Meanwhile, Kody allows himself to be gently guided into decency by this same partner, who doles out praise whenever he manages to be slightly less insufferable than usual. The manipulation is so transparent, it borders on theatrical. Yet, it is unfailingly effective. The chaos surrounding graduation seating arrangements only underscores the absurdity. The suggestion that 20 people must relocate en masse every time someone desires a better vantage point is illogical at best. Mary's wish to see her child cross the stage, an event lasting mere minutes, hardly necessitates a migratory parade. The production-driven drama obscures the real issue. Certain family members were simply unwilling to accommodate her unless her needs conformed to theirs. If the intention was to portray unity, the effect is the opposite. The seating shuffle, the microaggressions disguised as logistical concerns, the insistence that Mary's reactions were overblown, all offered the same message. Her position in the family is conditional, her milestones negotiable, and her dignity expendable. In a family devoted to narratives of plural love and shared parenting, the discrepancy speaks for itself. Here's what they don't tell you about the Brown family's rules. They're enforced with the precision of a dictator and the logic of a refrigerator magnet. The latest installment of the family's domestic pageant offered a reminder of who truly served as the household's self-appointed pandemic warden.
He's putting his phone in his pocket.
Evidently, the rule was simple. Phones belong in pockets. Except, of course, when Robin announces otherwise. Her swift, almost militaristic snatch of a device from Kody's hands made it abundantly clear who enforces the law and who merely reports infractions. Robin's behavior remains a study in contradictions. Her words float in one direction, while her facial expressions flee in another. The subtle mouth wipe that followed Kody's kiss was particularly illuminating, though hardly surprising. Observing her requires a certain interpretive skill. Ignore the script and watch the body language. Her truth is always hiding in plain sight. And then there was the dinner date, an extended advertisement for their suddenly front and center physical relationship. Anxieties about sharing silverware were followed by an excruciating conversation about licking, which achieved the impressive feat of being both unnecessary and unwatchable. The sustained attempt to make their romantic life a plotline remains as misguided as it is unappealing. No audience has ever clamored for intimate innuendo from this particular pairing.
When you kiss, the person that you kiss.
Some speculate that Robin's anxieties stem from the usual pseudoscientific chatter about protecting male virility, conveniently applied only to certain members of her household. Others note her habit of managing the environment around Kody, who prefers the role of the parent who never says no, just the one who tattles when minor rules are broken.
You know, with plural marriage, you'd think you would need more accountability. But I think I'm being held more accountable now.
His scolding through snitching routine was on full display when he reported Saul's pocket placement to Mom, rather than addressing it himself. Their attempted tableau of domestic bliss, Kody brushing Saul's hair as though performing for a brochure, only added to the spectacle. The gesture might have been touching if it weren't an unmistakable performance, particularly given the 18 other children who somehow never benefited from such paternal grooming. The home itself made its own cameo. The camera operators, apparently tired of pretending otherwise, lingered on cluttered corners and curious piles with surgical precision. The environment resembled less a family residence and more a large, shared junk drawer.
All my underwear ends up in one drawer, and
One stray drawer in particular received highlighted attention, as though silently begging the viewer to draw their own conclusions.
But there was only a microwave, and I don't have microwaves.
Amid all this, the family's long-standing skepticism about vaccines floated back into memory. An on-brand detail for a household that once panicked over microwave radiation and now phone placement. The anxiety over pockets felt like a modern echo of earlier eras, when people fretted that carrying a phone too close to the body might spontaneously cause cancer. And so the episode delivered yet another portrait of contradiction, selective concern, and theatrical domesticity. The actions remained more revealing than the speeches, and the nonverbal cues more honest than any proclaimed values. In other words, business as usual. Here's what no one in the Brown family dares say out loud. The ranch incident wasn't about food. It was about entitlement finally hitting a wall.
So we were at the ranch in Wyoming, and we'd finished up the cattle drive.
Robin Brown's catalog of grievances is long, but few moments capture the dynamic more cleanly than the family's visit to Kody Brown's relative's ranch in Wyoming. There, amid the cattle and the work crews, the household matriarchs, Jenielle, Kody's mother, and Cheryl, Janelle's mother, laid out a simple, time-honored rule. The workers eat first. A straightforward concept for most families. Yet somehow, it collided head-on with the Brown family's most delicate ecosystem, Robin's children, and their unquestioned right, in her world, to be first at everything.
Grandma Cheryl is usually so quiet and laid back.
Cheryl, normally soft-spoken, was forced to raise her voice when some of the younger children ignored her directions. Aurora and Dayton, in particular, busied themselves uncovering dishes, grabbing plates, and generally positioning themselves as the opening act of the self-serve buffet. After being told to wait, they simply picked up the plates again. It required a rare moment of firmness for Cheryl to reset the order. Workers first, everyone else after. The children, accustomed to precedence, blinked in confusion. Their mother, meanwhile, wore the unmistakable look of someone personally wronged by the fabric of the universe.
Robin, one time I offended her with something that I said. She came over to my house. We talked about it for a while.
That expression reappeared later in the interview footage. Still injured, still offended, still insisting that her children were burdened by having to live under the same rules as every other child present. The outrage was eerily reminiscent of another moment. The sulk that erupted when Kody phoned Christine during the San Francisco trip instead of Robin. The same tight-lipped, wounded aggrievement at the horror of not being the default priority. The ranch scene represented something unforgivable in Robin's playbook. An outsider daring to correct her children. Even worse, it was Janelle's mother committing the offense. The irony, of course, was that the OG Brown kids had long endured a real scarcity of treats, attention, and indulgences. Things Robin routinely demanded in abundance for her own children while declining to insist on parity for the others. The pattern shows up repeatedly. The children, never disciplined and rarely guided in basic social behavior, behaved as though they were entitled to the spotlight in every family moment. Engagement announcements? Aurora attempts to be the first to rush in. A sibling returning from military service? She plants herself at the front so she can lay claim to the first hug. Garrison's homecoming? She darts in from the side, physically undercutting the sibling he approached. Even Brianna, meeting Kody's brother Michael for the first time, surged ahead to greet him before anyone else. These are not coincidences. They are learned behaviors.
There's not a division.
And those behaviors have consequences. Their mother repeatedly insists her children are excluded or unaccepted, while simultaneously setting them up to believe they deserve to be first in all things, emotionally, socially, symbolically. It is a formula for perpetual offense, a self-fulfilling prophecy. a cocoon of entitlement spun tight. When the children were once asked which wife was the best cook, the answer, Christine, elicited family smiles until Robin registered it. Her face tightened instantly, and Kody, long accustomed to that expression, visibly shrank. He read the warning. The head wife was displeased. His instinctive retreat said everything about the balance of power. This reflexive offense aligns seamlessly with the narcissistic parenting cycle. Children are treated as extensions of the parent, and any critique, no matter how mild, is interpreted as an attack on the parent's own identity. Robin and Kody both exhibit this trait, though hers operates with a quieter, more strategic insistence on protection and preferential treatment. The contrast between appearances and behavior is especially stark. Robin once stood positioned as the pretty wife, thanks to thinness, cosmetics, hair, nails, and a level of grooming she maintained even on camping trips. It was a version of beauty Kody openly valued, presentation over substance. Yet, by any reasonable measure, Janelle has always been the loveliest of the wives, her features naturally striking without the performative varnish.
Aurora's panic attack.
What is increasingly clear is that the real disservice in this family has been to the younger children raised under Robin's regime of fragility and pedestal placement. Aurora and Brianna are not unintelligent. They are simply developmentally stunted by an upbringing that rewarded neediness, emotional volatility, and constant primacy. One can only hope they follow Dayton's example and begin cultivating independence, distance from the flattening gravity of their mother's expectations. In the end, the ranch incident was not about a plate of food. It was a rare moment when the wider family ecosystem enforced a boundary Robin could not overwrite, a reminder that the world would not always announce her children first, nor cushion them from the slightest disappointment. Her fury made one thing perfectly obvious. She believed it should. Subscribe for more video.